36. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call actually, we're going to continue the regularly scheduled business meeting, the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. We came out of closed session on contract discussions, and we're continuing it now in open session. So I'll call this portion of the open meeting to order, and we'll make it at 37. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, once again, thanks for attending. Those who are watching at home, we're going to get some business done. Begin with additions, deletions to the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, the entire board is present, so we can conduct any business necessary now. Any additions, deletions to the agenda? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands as published. At this time, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve a consent agenda 13-141, which is to approve the minutes of the October 28, 2013 regular meeting. Approve the minutes of the November 25th, 2013 regular meeting. Approve the check register dated December 5th, 2013, and to approval to process and distribute payments through December 31st, 2013, and this is our last meeting.
Second.
Okay, with is there any comment or anything from the consent agenda? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The consent agenda stands approved. At this time, I will open the mic to public comment, limited to action items on tonight's agenda. Any member of the public wants to comment on tonight's action items? Mr. Clark, are you volunteering? Well, I'm going to take that as a yes. Mr. Clark?
Okay, on this hardship, is that about the 100% disability of the service people?
That's yes. Governor Snyder recently signed into law, excuse me, the opportunity for 100% exemption from property taxes for disabled veterans with 100% disability.
Okay, there's other steps in there, isn't there, also?
There are some criteria that have to be met.
Can we discuss that when you bring that up?
I can, but the questions are better answered by individuals. Come down to our assessment office. We'll give you the forms you need. You will need to provide documentation on a VA letterhead stating that you are, in fact, recognized as 100% disabled. But other than that, there isn't a whole lot of requirement.
Well, I thought there was 3 different sets that they could go. One was 100%, and it goes down the line, less, and less.
I'm not aware of that. It may be. I'm not aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clark. Other public comment? All right, with none offered, we will move on to our action items. And that means I'll go first. So the first one will be the hardship guidelines, and we're still learning how to use our tablets, folks, and I'm a slow learner. Eric could show me how to hit the bookmarks and go right to it, but that's consent, and okay, with that accomplished, now hardship guidelines. And I wasn't happy with the way this was printed, so I'm going to modify I'll open it up with the resolution. I move that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees approve the revised income and asset threshold guidelines for the 2014 board review.
Support.
Okay, seconded by Treasurer Vanos, and at this point I'll read it. It will be done by resolution, and I didn't want to read the resolution until it was seconded, and I'll include this as part of the history. So the resolution goes, whereas the homestead of person or persons who, in the judgment of the Board of Review, by reason of poverty, and I said earlier, I love these things because they make the print big enough, but I can't. Person or persons who, in the judgment of the Board of Review by reason of poverty, are unable to contribute to the public charges is eligible for exemption in whole or part from taxation under the General Property Tax Act. And whereas the Township Board of Trustees is required by Section 7 uniform of the General Property Tax Act, Public Act 206 of 1893, also Michigan Bylaws 211.7U, to adopt guidelines for poverty exemptions. Now therefore be it resolved, pursuant to MCL 211.7U, that the Township of Grosse Ile, Wayne County, adopts the following guidelines for the Board of Review to implement in 2014, which shall include, but not be limited to, the specific income and asset levels of the claimant and all persons residing in the household, including any property tax credit returns filed in the current or immediately preceding year. And the guidelines are as follows. For the size of family unit: 1 person, $21,000; 2 persons, $23,000; 3 persons, $25,000; 4 persons, $27,000; 5 persons, $29,000; 6 persons, $31,597; 35,610; 8 persons, $39,630; and for each additional household member, add $4,020. Losing control again. Homeowners and all household members with liquid assets, defined as anything readily converted to cash in excess of $57,000, shall not be eligible for a poverty exemption. And the completion of the Township of Grosse Ile 2014 application for hardship exemption. Be it also resolved that the Board of Review shall follow the above stated policy and state guidelines for the year 2014 in granting or denying an exemption, unless the Board of Review determines there are substantial and compelling reasons why there should be a deviation from the policy and or township and state guidelines, and these are communicated in writing to the claimant. The background is basically there are federal poverty guidelines that are slightly different. They're significantly lower. Our Board of Review establishes what they determine as locally accepted poverty guidelines, and we are in the process of enacting them tonight. Board of Review must follow poverty income standards as of 12/31/13 for use in setting exemption, and it also allows us to set, again, the numbers we suggested are, well, just for example, federal guideline for a size of family unit of 1 is 11,490 and ours is 21,000. Just a comparison. They go to parity at 6 persons and they're even from then out. So that's what we need to do this. We need to do this every year. It'll be in place actually for the December Board of Review, which begins tomorrow. Questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, it's a formality. Our Board of Review has done their job on this. Those in favor of approving the guidelines through the resolution that I previously read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. It is so adopted. I will scroll through. Okay, moving on to action item number 2. Again, it's another tax issue. And again, I'll introduce the resolution. I move that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees allow residents to mail in property tax appeals to the 2014 March Board of Review. Okay, seconded by Clerk Ranka. Again, this is done via resolution, and we do it every year. Not all communities offer this. We do. Whereas the Michigan law allows the governing body of a township to permit resident taxpayers to file a protest to the Board of Review in writing without a personal appearance, and whereas some residents have difficulty attending scheduled March Board of Review sessions in person, and whereas the intent of the Board of Review is to make tax appeals as accommodating as possible to as many residents as possible, now therefore be it resolved, the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees does hereby authorize township residents or their representatives to appeal their property taxes to the 2014 March Board of Review in writing without a personal appearance. Again, the background is we have the opportunity to offer this to the residents. I think last year we only had 10 or 12 maybe mailed in. So, but some do. We have snowbirds or people for whatever reason can't present their case or choose not to in person at the Board of Review. and they get equal treatment if they send in their documentation by mail or hand delivered. So, discussion among the board. All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the allowing of residents to mail in their property tax appeals to the 2014 March Board of Review, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will be approved. Having the same problems I have. We're learning. Okay, so we're going to move on to action item number 3, Island Fest. Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the board grant approval for the Festival Commission to contract Skirbeck Brothers Shows Incorporated to operate a carnival during the Island Fest from the dates of Friday, May 30th, 2014 through Sunday, June 1st, 2014.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Clerk Ranka.
And at this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Rooney to give us a little bit of background and information in regards to the Skirbeck Brothers.
Thank you. Skirbeck Brothers has been with the Carnival for many years. 2 years ago, they won the Circle of Excellence Award. It's a national award handed out in Las Vegas. It's the Outdoor Amusement Business Association. 20 operators won that nationally. They reviewed 43 different aspects, and safety and cleanliness are very key. They scored a 93% out of 100. And I remember when Tom Pajaski used to former fire marshal, and Rusty hasn't had many problems that I know of. He said, hey, Tim, they run it like a military camp as far as their safety and cleanliness. So we've been pretty happy. They do 51 events in Michigan, 3 in Indiana from mid-April through October, and they've been in business for 150 years. Some of the other carnivals in the state are, you've probably seen it when you're up north, there are carnivals, Arnold, Big Rock, Elliott's, Maple Leaf, Mid-America, Playworld, Schmidt, Wade out of Livonia, Wonder Shows. I think that might be about it. Yeah, that's about it as far as operators in Michigan. So we take a close look at all the different groups, but as far as Skirbeck and how they operate, they're a very good group. We made over $13,000 on the carnival last year. We raised the weekend fee from 18 to 20, and the people seemed okay with that. The commission's been very steadfast on having at least about 20 rides, children and adult. So I'm glad how they handle that. And is there any questions?
I'm trying to recall last year, they did run the show last year.
Yes.
Ran it well. I don't remember any accidents or incidents. I'm sure I think there were a couple of minor cuts and bruises, but overall, it seemed to run a show looked clean, seemed to be run safely. I think they did a good job for us.
We take that pretty serious when we go review that. Same with the fireworks.
Other comments from the board?
Just a question, Tom. Did the additionally insured for this, I see they carry $1 million policy with a $3 million rider, is that correct?
Right. And that was reviewed by Daily Merit last year, and then I ran it by Jim Daly again this year, and that's about the limit we can get from them. And
they're comfortable?
People talked to Daily Merit last year. They got a rep call from the main insurance company, and he's...
Because we just jacked it up, I think. We forced them into a $3 million rider.
Yes, yeah, that's
Okay.
Jim's recommendation.
All right, good. All right, thanks.
Other questions, comments for Mr. Rooney? All right, with none offered. Those in favor of contracting with Skirbeck Brothers Shows for the 2014 Island Fest, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None offered? Very good. All right, it's me again. Okay, I move to action item number 4. Again, another resolution. And I move that Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees continue to utilize the consulting services of Mr. Timothy O'Donnell, Michigan Advanced Assessing Officer, as professional assessor for the real and personal properties of Grosse Ile Township, according to the professional consultants agreement between Township of Grosse Ile and Timothy O'Donnell, dated 9 December 2013.
Second. All kinds of it.
I'll give that to the support to Mr. Posiask. Background, Getting back to the state constitution and state laws, in order to fairly assess the values of the real and personal properties of Grosse Ile Township, state law permits townships to utilize the services of professional assessors. Mr. O'Donnell has served in this capacity since 1982, but a recent evaluation of township practices revealed no written agreement between Mr. O'Donnell and the township. While this arrangement has worked well, the board believes a written agreement with the responsibilities of both parties enumerated be in the best interest of the township. A little additional background. Assessing is assigned to the supervisor, and state law allows it. If I'm not certified as, in our case, a level 3 assessor based on the taxable values, that the township board can hire professional assessors to do the job. That's our situation. But he does work for me in the assessing office. Again, he's been doing it since he was hired by Merle Solomon in 1982. Comparing the agreement rates, what he charges versus another nearby community, somewhere between 60% and half of what they'd be charging us if we contracted out to at least one of the consulting or assessing firms that I've been familiar with. He knows the neighborhood. He knows the assessment of the island. He got all 200 points on the 14-point review. We're maybe the only township, one of the very few, who got all 200 points. And we just decided it was time to codify the agreement because that's just a better way of doing business. Comments from the board? Mr. Budney.
Mr. Supervisor, I have the same question that I had 2 weeks ago regarding this, and I have no problem. I think we have a good man for our assessing. I have no problem with most of this agreement. The one part that I do have a problem with is the one line that where we pay our consultant his annual certification fee dues for professional assessing memberships and required classes, simply because I can't see any business reason for us to do that. I understand that he has been with us since 1982, and when he started in 1982, I think he started out making $1,000. And I can see back when you're making $1,000 that a little bump like this makes some sense. But now he's making very, very good money from us for his 2 days a week, and I don't understand why we would pay a consultant for these types of expenses. In fact, his certification and everything is something we would need him to have coming to us to employ him for what we need. So that's the only thing in this contract that I have a problem with, and don't see that we're really doing our fiduciary duty to the residents by adding things that we don't need to add to a contract and pay.
Okay, well, his certification fee is $175. And the classes that he and Carol take 3 or 4 times a year, let's say 3 times, there's another $120. So we're getting a very reasonable price. If you look at it as a total compensation package, we're getting a very good deal.
Right.
And I'm not going to split hairs for another $300.
Well, you forgot the associations that we're also paying for, and the fact that he works for 4 or 5 other cities, so they get the benefit of us paying those expenses. I just don't see any there's no reason for it. It's not the dollar value involved here. It's also the not just the dollar value. What it is more so, it just doesn't seem to be a good business practice, because the only reason we seem to be doing it is because we've always done it. It's not something, and I wonder, after talking to Tim about this, if we just didn't start doing it for him, and it's not something that was even ever negotiated with him. But at this point, with the fee that we do pay him now, I think he can cover those expenses. That's my thought.
Okay, again, my point is we're getting, regardless if we paid him $10,000 in consulting fees or for his membership fees and his certification, and only $20,000 to do the consulting. It's the total package. I realize you have a disagreement in principle. I'm looking at the total dollars spent for the value received. And every way I look at it, every other assessing firm, every other community I look at, we are getting a very good deal. And if we continue to pay another $300 for fees that you just disagree with in principle, well, I'm willing to eat that to keep those assessment costs to the very reasonable level they are.
Are you saying that if we didn't pay that, and it's more than, whatever it is, 300, 500, whatever it is, he'd be walking away from us by not paying it?
No, but what if he just demanded an extra $5,000? We'd have to replace him with somebody that would cost us $20,000 more.
Well, then what we should be doing is negotiating and not just giving. That's my point. But that's why I can't go along with this contract.
Okay. Other comments from the board? Mrs. Smith?
Yeah, no, I would have a tendency to agree with Mr. Budney here. And the idea that it's only a couple $100, $300 here and there, I think we need to get out of that mentality, because these $300 here and there adds up. And every single time, no matter where it is, whether it's in a contract negotiation or pens and pencils or office supplies or anything else, it all adds up. And we're supposed to be overseeing and being the fiduciary trustees of our taxpayer dollars. I don't know Tim. I don't know if he does a good job or doesn't do a good job. I'm assuming he does based on things other people have said, but when you take the person out of it, it's a job. And most other vendors or contractors probably wouldn't have classes or certification fees written in. I'm not going to quibble over it, but I just want to make my position known.
Well, your position is established. Mr. Van Ost?
I'm just going to, the only comment I have to make is we need an assessor to sign our rolls. We don't have a qualified assessor here. I don't believe that Tim is the roll signee for any other community that he works for.
He's not.
I think we're the only one. So I think because we need him to sign the rolls, I don't have a problem with his association fees and his education, because he does sign our rolls. We don't have anybody qualified to do that. So that's why I would support in this particular case. And I think it goes beyond that. I think we have a couple of contractors here that we do that for. And I can see the argument, of course, doing it for anybody and everybody. But when we ask when Tim has to sign our rolls, I think it's important that he stays certified and he belongs to all of these associations to stay updated. So I would support the motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Eric, Mr. Clerk?
Sure. The same thing. I agree. If this was a new contract, certainly we would look into whether we were going to fund this or not. But this was a contract that was negotiated some time ago. It wasn't formally codified as a contract, but the total compensation for what the position receives, I have no problem with it.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any other comments from the board? Mr. Malvesto?
I can see both sides of the argument here. For this current year, I don't have a problem with it. I do agree with Jim. I question why we're paying for the certification from basically a private contractor, and as Lauren said, taking a person out of it. But certainly next year, I'd be looking at that much closer. I'm in support of it this evening, but for next year, I would be looking at it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Mr. Prozask?
I'm bringing up the rear. If we had to change this contract to $35,000, would you approve it? Is the question that I'm going to ask. And the reason I'm going to ask it is that I don't find it unusual for someone doing something specialized for us to have certification needs. And if they, in fact, are number one only for us, then we ought to pay the bill. And that is not unusual in business. These fees, if we're going to add $500 to to the total cost of this business. I've also heard some of the history of how Mr. O'Donnell got into this situation in the first place versus having work done by Wayne County. When you compare those figures against what we have here right now, there's a six-figure difference, and so I think we're quibbling over $500 on this unnecessarily. I support the motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Proziask. I added the total costs for assessing, divided it by, and it came up to, out of the whole assessing office, $67,355. That's Mr. O'Donnell's consulting fee, his salary, part of Carol Canope, deputy assessor's salary, her benefits, a portion of her benefits, preparation of the rolls, certification of the rolls, all those numbers that went in, $67,355, divide that by 6,025 taxable parcels on the island, comes down to, and you can back me up on this, but $11.18 a parcel. When Wayne County wanted to take over, and I've had my head in the belly of this beast for a while. When Wayne County wanted to take over, or was pretty much being driven by Governor Granholm to have all township assessment done by the counties, they were going to charge us $40 per parcel. You can spin those same numbers out and you get over $240,000. I just, again, I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. That's the total cost, his certification fees, his continuing education, part of the total package. I think it's a good value, and my bottom line is getting a good value for the residents, as long as we can get at it legally. Other closing comments? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the professional consulting agreement between the Township of Grosse Ile and Timothy O'Donnell dated 9 December 2013, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Should we do a roll call? Or can I cite Mr. Budney, Mrs. Smith as nay?
No,
No.
I was only quibbling over that
Okay.
one point. I
So
supported
we have-
I'm
otherwise.
the only nay.
Mr. Budney, good enough. All right, that concludes that. Let's move on to number 5.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to propose a motion based on the recommendation of the Grosse Ile Airfield Commerce Park Manager. The Grosse Ile Township Board authorize Mike Zuger to sign a contract number 2014-0068 between the Township of Grosse Ile and the Michigan Department of Transportation.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oos, seconded by Clerk Ranka.
As way of explanation, Mike, you want to come up? I'll give a brief explanation. We've had some major runway work done this year to the tune of a little over $103,000, almost $104,000, based on MDOT. FAA generally does not reimburse for maintenance, but there's a number of factors in the runway conditions that we've dealt with, and the age of the runways that MDOT has stepped up and agreed to pick up 95% of the cost of the repairs, leaving us of this $103,996, a total investment of $5,199. And we can thank Mike for a lot of the work that he did on this. This is just the surface of the problems that are going to be coming forward over the next few years. This is a standard contract. The FAA requires 10%. I think they're at 10% now, or are they at 5%?
It's 10%, 5% state, 5% local.
Okay. Interesting, and that would be for reconstruction. Traditionally, the federal government does not step up and handle any repairs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So MDOT has stepped up because of the conditions of these runways. So I guess we're asking for approval of this contract.
I'll chime in here a little bit. We were all at the meeting up at MDOT earlier this fall regarding the status of our airport following the FAA inspection, FAA and MDOT inspection. Way of background, airports that have scheduled passenger service by U.S. air carriers are controlled by the FAA. Ones that do not, general aviation airports like ours, are controlled by the state departments of transportation, but they follow the exact same guidelines as the feds. It's just kind of wickered down a little bit, and a little bit closer to the user level. But at that meeting, I was just disappointed that the state reps seemed unconcerned that our runways, fairly recently repaired, were failing. And got in a relatively intense discussion with this with Senator Colbeck, and he is working it from the transportation end on why are Michigan's highways in such bad shape. Why does concrete fail in Michigan where it doesn't seem to be failing as quickly anywhere else? So he's working on that from his end. We're seeing it on our runways that we're supposed to have a 20-year life, and we're getting 10 years out of it. Detroit Metro had a runway, and they're get a lot more use on it. They spend a lot more money on a runway fail 3 or 4 years into a repair project. So the overarching concern is, why does concrete fail in the state of Michigan? Is it construction standards, materials, inspection? That's got to be worked out at a different level, but I'm going to continue pursuing and get some answers in that so that future occupants of this town hall aren't faced with this thing every 5 or 6 years and dumping hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money into it. But again, as Mr. Van Oss said, Mike, you've been working hard on this, and thanks for making progress and getting a funding source for it.
I just have one question. Did Mr. Assorti look this contract over?
We blanket approved the terms and conditions since the airport went private. The same terms and conditions have been approved since then. Whenever there's a change that comes out, when we send it to legal counsel review, and then we took it to our Commerce Park Commission in late 2012, and then we take it to the board for final approval.
So basically, we're looking at another boilerplate contract that's driven by the FAA. All right, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Anka.
Just to reiterate, can you explain on now? Just so everyone is aware, can you explain where the matching local funds come from, our Groseal funds?
Our Groseal funds will come out of our runway repair budget line item. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to afford the total repairs there, but the $5,100 is within our budget line item there. I think it's about a $12,000 or $14,000, if I remember correctly, item.
And that's from basically supported from user fees on the property and or rents from the property. So it's not Groseal General Fund, it's from airport generated monies. That's correct. Airport and Commerce Park Enterprise Fund, all generated within house. Thank you.
Other comments from Mr. Duker? All right, with none offered.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Great job.
Okay, then, those in favor of authorizing Mike Duker to sign contract, Mr. Duker, Airfield Commerce Park Manager, to sign contract number 2014-0068 between the Township of Groseal and the Michigan Department of Transportation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? Mr. Duker, you are approved to sign. All right, with that'll conclude our action items. We'll move on to the clerk's report. Mr. Rankin.
No report this week.
Treasurer's report. Mr. Treasurer.
I'll make it quick. Information is still being received for the November investment report. Should be completed by the next board meeting. If you go onto the website, you can see all of our investments and where they're at. The 2013 winter tax bills have been mailed. The due date for the winter tax bill is February 14th, 2014. If you have not received your tax bill, please contact the Treasurer's Office at extension 223 or 232 or 222. We will ensure we have the proper mailing address. Those who qualify may apply for deferment for the winter tax February 14th due date. This deferment will extend the due date to February 14th, from February 14th, 2014 to April 30th, 2014. Please contact my office for inquiries to receive the deferment form, which will require you to show qualifications. It's also shown on the website at groseal.com. Pet tags for 2014 are now available. Please bring in valid rabies shots, vaccination certificates to obtain your 2014 pet tag. The Commerce Park meeting is a week from today. If you'd like to attend, we'll be addressing a couple of issues, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Move on to trustee reports. Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First, I'd certainly like to thank Ted for that wonderful tax bill that he sent out.
He sent one to himself.
DPS meeting tomorrow, no ZBA meeting this month, and I just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We have a wonderful island, and despite disagreements, we have a good board here, and it's a great place to live. And I hope in this season everybody takes a little time to appreciate that fact. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Let's see, Mr. Malvesto.
This past Friday evening was the Island Glow. It was attended. The attendance appeared to be a very good attendance, and from the smiles on the faces of the kids, and then the welcoming of Santa Claus, and then walking down Macomb Street to light the tree, it was a moving experience. Moving in such a way that my toes were frozen, my nose was frozen. But Tim, thank you very much. You put a lot of hard work into it, and make sure you thank Santa Claus for us. And Chief Murdoch, you're in the middle of Goodfellows collections right now. Yes. Would you like to share anything with the? Do you mind? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, we're actually in the middle of Goodfellows season right now. We have a lot of adopted families that have come forward. We're also adopting a lot of families out. And as usual, the residents of Groseal are being very generous to the Goodfellows system that's been run by the fire department since about 1959 or 57, somewhere in there. But it's up and running and going, and if you know of any families that need help, please get a hold of me, and I will follow up on it.
And I understand that you coordinate this amongst the churches on Groseal?
Yes. At the end of it all, what we do is donate all the leftover food to the food bank at the Catholic Church, and then we usually donate all hard products like coats and toys and things of that nature to the Salvation Army. So we kind of work in conjunction with each other. So it works out real well.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
And other than saying Merry Christmas and great holidays for the entire island, all the residents, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I received a really nice email from Chairwoman Kathy Walker. She sent it out to the commission with a general initial overview of the creative that's being presented for the new website, and I like what I see. We are actually having a meeting tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock here to study session to kind of go over the creative and pick it apart and pros and cons and whatnot, so it's exciting to see the progress. It's good news. And then just to mention that on Sunday I was at Kroger, and the Groseal Garden Club was there selling their annual calendars for $15, and I believe that they're planning on being out there next Saturday and Sunday. So, good.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Posios.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a couple things. First of all, I'd like to welcome Sonia and Gary D'Souza back to Groseal. They purchased a home, the Braden home, and I believe they closed on it today. So we filled up one of them and good with two great people. Second of all, I'd like to make you all aware that this Saturday, Knights of Columbus are going to be helping out the Salvation Army. They'll be ringing bells at Kroger's and at the drugstore and bring all of the money from your children's piggy banks and put them into that slot. There's a lot of people that need help this year. Other than that, I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Seems like we're coming out of a 5-year tailspin slowly but surely, and let's hope it continues. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Posiask. Brings it around to me, a supervisor's report. A couple odds and ends. Short tonight. Admin stuff. Township offices will be closed on Tuesday and Wednesday, December 24th and 25th, for the Christmas holiday, of course. And back to business on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. Also Tuesday, Wednesday, December 31st, 2013, and January 1st, 2014 for the New Year's holiday. And again, Thursday morning, 8 o'clock, open for business. Grosse Ile Historical Society Holiday Gift Boutique is doing very well this year. Will remain open, let's see, Fridays from 3 to 7, Saturday and Sunday 10 to 4 through December 22nd. Once again, if they don't have it, you don't need it. A lot of people apparently think that they have it because sales have been going well, so get over there while they still have some of the unique merchandise available. I want to expand a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Was there at Island Glow, as was our clerk and his family. Some parts of my job are better than others, but Christmas is the best part, and we did have a good turnout. Lots of kids, most of whom were on the nice list. But we've got to thank the Grosse Ile High School Marching Band. They kind of led the parade. And Downriver Brass with a lot of Christmas carols, and it was just great fun. A couple of miscommunication issues, but we got down to the tree. We got, with a little help from Nicholas Ranka, we got the tree lit right on time, and I've got nothing but good compliments from it. So great fun. Thanks for those of you who came out. Let's see, on the more business-oriented sign, a couple people pointed out to me that through the state legislature now there are new anti-blight bills. Let's see, the opening statement is saying that it's going to be easier for communities to prosecute under civil infractions and criminal penalties. Please, let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's continue we're getting a start. We're moving slowly. We're reversing years of, I'll just say, inattention. But we're moving in the right direction. We're cleaning the place up. It's still a great place to live, and it's just getting better all the time. And finally, per the request of Mr. Clark, on the veterans, the disabled veterans exemption, and it's Bulletin 11 of 2013, as of November 4th of 2013. It's a 4-page pamphlet that we have available downstairs at the Administration Assessing Office, but the short version is, if you are a disabled veteran, 100% disability, you are exempted from 100% of your property tax. You must apply in person, and you must bring, as far as I know, you must apply in person, and you must have documentation from the Veterans Administration on Veterans Administration letterhead. We have processed 7 exemptions so far. That's why we're there. Come and see us, and I'm sure you can have an agent pick up, if you're unable to attend, pick up the forms, assist you with their completion. But again, we must have your exemption on VA letterhead stating your level of disability. And after that, we'll be glad to help you out. And that concludes my report. With that, turn it over to the Township Manager, Mr. Iam.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a few brief items. Mr. Clark, the legal bills were $3,581, and that was for prosecution and general guidance. I was asked to remind everyone that the yard waste collection ends this week. Yep. And on the ordinance side of things, I've been had conversations with a few different residents, and they seem frustrated that we're taking long. We are not taking long. We are not dragging our feet. We are doing a detailed, comprehensive review, which takes a lot of time. It's taken a lot of extra time from numerous trustees. Mr. Budney and Ms. Smith are spending a lot of extra time out of their schedules and working through this. And so everyone knows, the plan is to identify these items, review them with the proper commissions or committees in relationship to what ordinance it is, put together a report, come to the board, and decide on what changes we want to make. And if either one of you would like to add, I would appreciate if you would, because I want, this process takes time. We want to do it well and we want to do it properly, but for some reason there are those that don't believe the fact that we are taking a systematic approach, and I don't like it.
And you're absolutely right, and it does take time. We meet every week for a couple hours to go through as we're going through these ordinances. We don't have the luxury of being able to say, hey, we'll just take a week and spend a week going over it or whatever. We do a couple hours a week. We do it every week. It's systematic. We're not going to rush it. We're going to go through the whole process because, in fact, when we get done, we're thinking of putting in a new process, not just necessarily going right to the courts if people don't, clean up as they should. So it all takes time, and we're just going to take that time and do it properly. And even when that does get done, we're not going to have an army of people to go out and scour the island to look for things being wrong. It's still going to be basically one person who has many other things to do. So that all has to go into the discussion also.
Thank you.
But that's where we're at. We're moving along. I think we have 8 more sections of ordinances to go through.
And if anybody's ever seen that book, it's this big, so it's not light reading by any means.
Very few pictures. It's not fun to go through.
I just make a comment. I'd like to thank Jim and Lauren for the work they've been doing. And the township needs to remember that this is probably a culmination of 15 previous boards that have put this together, and these guys are reviewing the whole thing. It is an extremely time-consuming process. They've bit a big apple here.
Thank you. And one last item. The other question I've received over the past month or so is the township going to continue with the deer call? We have applied for the application permits through the state of Michigan, and that is all in process, and we expect to continue the program just like we have the past few years. And this, we're following our township adopted program, and again, as recommended by the Police Commission. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Okay, at this time, I'm going to open up for, again, the public comment, any topic. The mic's yours for 3 minutes. You know the rules. Introduce yourself and what's on your mind. Here's Mr. Rooney.
Bring up Island Glow again. It takes a lot of people to pull the valve. I want to thank the DDA for their support. The fire department, actually one of the drivers came and called me during the middle of the day to get the exact timing down. That's pretty, we supply a list, but he wanted to make sure it went well. The police department makes it work, keeps people safe on the streets. Where I'm going to get distracted, anybody helping me gets distracted with all those people, and if you look, the police are right in place. The police, the new color guard, Mark Relic, that was kind of a neat group. River Point Church allowing the children's choir to practice right across the street. Brian mentioned the marching band, schools transportation program, the music boosters, Derek Light doing the tree for a really good price, the children's choir, Jim Parker and Barb Conroy, Bob and Samantha Firmstone, the Hill Camera for their excellent coverage. And not for my department put the ad together, but included a lot of the community groups like we do every year for their events. Bill Fleming, he knows why. And Chad Novick, very spirited man, brings a lot of energy, but he does a great job, and it's nice to have that extra energy out there. So I got to give Chad great credit for his enthusiasm and spirit. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. That was, again, those accolades do need to go out. It was a great time, and thank you for reminding me and us, all the players that make a successful event happen safely. And
Pretty knows.
And Perry for letting us light his tree once again and trample all over his lawn and dropping candy canes and all the other fun stuff. Other public comment? Mr. Clark.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. You told me the legal fees, but who are they for?
O'Reilly and Cilio.
Not the other one, not the one for the case that was coming up?
Correct.
There was an $1,800 check to Mark Shea, which is covering the Myosha side of that accident. That's still ongoing.
Okay. The wood cutting went well. They cleaned up, I would say, the north side of Park Lane from, Horse Mill from Park Lane to the thoroughfare. It could go a little bit better on the south side from Thoroughfare to Meridian, but they did a really good job, I think. We're going to try to do it again. We've got the names and the telephone numbers, so we're going to go some other place and call them and see if they want to do it. But I wouldn't want them to cut in this weather because they're going to slip and fall. There's snow out here. Also, what's going on with the trucks down here? All the trucks, all the orange trucks.
Mr. Duker could give you more details than I could, but
That's good. Here it's oil,
And,
silver.
we
that's right.
We're drilling.
We won't have any taxes to pay because we found oil.
We currently have 2 projects going on the Commerce Park and on the airport. One of them is cleaning out the stormwater drainage system that comes down Meridian and through the Commerce Park. Down there, they're jetting out and cleaning the system. And the other one is kind of an extension of an ongoing project with the Corps of Engineers. They get defense funds to clean up old Navy sites, so it's just contamination. What they're doing on our ramp right now is they're drilling and testing groundwater.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Mike, I understand you're finding some interesting objects in the drain?
There has been a few interesting finds so far.
Oh, sure.
Jimmy Hoffa?
No, we were hoping. I'm thinking we should tell them that he's under the runway. Maybe they'll dig it up. But my understanding is they found a boulder so far, a pretty big one. And today, I guess they found a bag of Quickcrete still in the bag that got dropped into the system somehow. So a couple of interesting finds.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, this is one of my pet peeves, and when I call this township, somebody phones ring and ring and ring and ring before the answering service comes on. Can we shut them down a little bit, like the 4 rings, and go to it? Because some people have their phones long time. Is that possible? You got 1 ring. I can name a person here that's got about 8. But we won't go in there, will we? Okay, this year Tim for festivals, the festival commission is Tim. Tim won't be here. You know that? Okay. You know that? The way you look at it.
I guess I don't understand. Am I the only one who doesn't understand that question?
This is a question, this is a statement.
Okay,
Tim is going to be out of town.
okay.
So the festival committee, huh?
They'll do fine.
I know that. The festival committee is going to be Tim. All right?
I think Lauren's on that festival.
Yeah, we got a fair share for her. I'm Tim.
Yeah. I'm going to be wearing a big hat.
Okay, there was a dog fight the other night, pretty bad. So I would advise people to let their dogs out by themselves. I don't know what got into this dog, but he was pretty bad shape. I saw pictures of him and it wasn't pretty. So I just want to let neighbors and the people on the island know, when you let a dog out, make sure you know where he is. Don't let him run forever. The small dogs don't come back sometimes. The coyotes are out there waiting. Okay, we can't talk about Blake because we're going to be down the road maybe next year, right?
Continuous improvement, Mr. Clark, continuous improvement.
We're doing the deer. Can we put some food out for the deer so they might not make more deer?
That's totally.
You're all over the page. The idea of introducing contraceptives into the wild,
In the food, in the food.
no, it's, the state is adamant against that at this point.
Okay, what about shooting the buck then?
Taking the males out does nothing, that would reduce 1. Taking a doe out takes 3 out. That's why we are limited to taking out the does.
Okay, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Other comments from the public present? Well, we've been all over the page tonight. Okay, with none offered, I'll make just a closing comment. We won't be seeing you before New Year's, so want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Please be careful, be safe, enjoy the time with your families, and I look forward to starting another calendar year with all of you. And if I hear no objections,
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second from Trustee Posias. Those in favor can signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none offered. I will call the meeting closed at 8:30. Nicely done.
Nice work.
For the holiday.
Good deal.